Welcome into Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut for Duckpin TV's coverage of the 2020 Frank Barbara Memorial Eastern Classic. It is the 90th annual, the big 9-0 here. Welcome in. We've got a lot to catch you up on since we last spoke. Here are the storylines so far going into this second to last shift of bowlers. Chris Kruger, the leader in the clubhouse. You saw him in our second episode from the Eastern Classic. Score 1807, a 150.6 average. That's a very important number right now because he's bowled all 12 of his games. We'll skip ahead to the bottom here. Montero and Blaze are both in contention. This is John Blaze on your screen right now, dropping 9. He just shot 161 in his 9th game of competition. So far, he has 1329, 147.7 pace, slightly off the pace that Chris Kruger set. John Zekas is second in the clubhouse. He's bowled all 12 of his games with 1759. Probably not going to hold up for 5th place, but it could, right? His number is in stone at the moment. There are no 900s on shift 5. No 900s. Last year, we had 13 900s in the tournament, so that's 6 games, 900 or more. That's a 150 or more average. 13 this year, so far only 5. All right, now let's welcome in the other 2 members of our broadcast team today. Eric Letuska.
Hi, Brian. Thanks. Hello, everybody.
And Jim Kaufman.
Hello there.
All right, so we just saw John Blaze there miss a single pin for a spare, but convert it for 10. Eric, I know you've been watching John pretty closely so far today for his first 3 games. What have you seen?
Well, that and spoke to him, had a chance to speak to him before he started today. He was talking about his shift yesterday, emphasized making contact with the head pin. Said that had a big hand in how he accumulated the score he did yesterday, and I think we're seeing some more of that today. He talked about, particularly for him, crossing over to the head pin, hitting the left pocket, and we see. Actually, I gotta say, a little while ago we watched John Blaze hit the pocket on I think it was the 10th frame of his second game. He broke a pin. I mean, to talk about the way this guy's crushing these pins today and how he's got the score he's got. He's doing well. I think he's definitely got some more work to do. He's got to average about a 160, 165 for his next 2 to get to the 1800 mark. But he's coming off that 160 game, ended with a double, and then opened this game good. And he's on 1 and 2, a pair that we talk about every year as being a favorite in the house.
Yep, his scores game by game: 155, 144, 161, 136, 161. 136. Started his second block, 148, 127, 161. So that puts him at 1329. And here he is walking onto the lanes now in all black. He'll also be throwing those bright orange balls. So you cannot miss John here. Let's see what he does. Right in the pocket there.
Wow, beautiful ball. That's not the 1-2 pocket, that's the 1-3 pocket, but man, did he obliterate those 10 pins. We'll be able to get a replay of this maybe in a moment, but I think that's John looked really, really solid, really smooth. A little bit of unwinding, I think, after he delivered the ball, but everything up to the moment that the ball left his hand looked really, really smooth.
We've also got a moment now to mention our other bowler in contention on this shift, Leo Montero. He currently sits at 1177. He's not on one of our camera feeds just yet. His group is also a little behind the pace. He has 68 in the 6th frame of his 8th game. So he's falling a little bit off the pace as well. Our focus right now is definitely on John Blaze, but we will keep you apprised of Leo Montero's score as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. Remind you that we have big screen TV viewing for you today. We've got our big screen in the middle that we'll be commentating on, along with your leaderboard to the right, frame-by-frame scores of the top bowlers to the left, and you can follow your favorite bowler ball for ball on our 2 featured camera angles today. We're on lanes 1 and 2 on the bottom left, and you'll see lanes 3 through 6 on the bottom right. Jim, been watching Leo a little bit. Anything you've seen from him today that would kind of tip you off as to how the day might end for him?
Well, this game's been a struggle for him. He just made a single, though, to try and right the ship a little bit in his 9th game. So got some work to do. You know, he's averaging 147, which is 3 pins off the pace, and he's well off a 150 pace this game. He only has 78 plus in the 7th. So he's got a lot of work to do to catch up with not only John Blaze, but the rest of the leaderboard and try and stay on the leaderboard.
Yeah, indeed. He did just spare there, like you said. So maybe working to right the ship, but let's turn our attention now to John Blaze on lane 2 on a spare. Man, that is powerful.
Yeah, that ball is, he's got a lot of revolutions on it. He backs the ball up, and he can get in tight in the pocket and still get the pins to mix around. That's not an easy thing to do in this house. John bowls here a lot, and his ball works well.
Let's take another look. And this is half speed there.
Yes, half speed, even though that looked like a bolt of lightning.
And he started this game by missing a single, so not to be Debbie Downer here, but yeah, he could have had an even better start than what he's already had. And he's at the point where you can't really afford to miss anything, and he's in his final 3 games.
Yeah, I think one of the storylines here, he just threw a double of the weekend, is, like we said, we've only had 5 900 sets so far. So that would be 900 for 6 games. Bowlers bowl 6 games in 1 round, and then they come back either hours or a day later and bowl their second block of 6 games. Only 5 900 so far, very low, and I think speculation is that there are not that many strikes out there. People are struggling to string together strikes. So John put together 2 here. That means this next ball is very, very critical.
Yeah, another thing that's definitely off trend from last year is, we're accustomed to having the heavier hitters, the highest average bowlers in the country, stacking themselves on shift 5. A favorite. There's John following up that double. He's off to the side. Looks like a 5 fill.
Let's take another look. Maybe a little off balance at the line there.
So John Blaze was actually the highest bowler, 6-game score that we're looking at going into today. Usually we see 1, 2, 3 bowlers from shift 5 being in the best position on day 2, with their second block coming up, and that's different. It was actually 2 bowlers from this shift who were in the best position. That is John and Leo.
Yeah, and John finished up there with just 7, so that was certainly not ideal. Filling it up with 5, and then not cleaning it up. Give a shout out right now to the man in, I don't know, we could debate what color that is. Pink, royal, I don't know. Some form of red. That's Pat Rufo. He'll be joining us in our next episode to bring you that shift 5.
I don't think our camera's doing the color justice there. That is hot pink he's wearing today.
Magenta? Hot pink? Yeah, I don't know. It's D'Antonis-like,
it's
for
a
sure.
D'Antonis.
Yeah.
You might have borrowed it from him. And actually, this year, I think we're going to have to get in the habit of saying John D'Antonis.
Or we'll have to say Colby's dad.
Colby's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see on the leaderboard
Yeah.
there, 10th place right now. He's bowled 6 games. He'll come back in our next episode for his second block of 6. Colby D'Antonis, hotshot youngster out of Maryland, taking right after his father. We'll see who dresses better
And
when they show up.
I wonder if they'll match. I hope they don't.
It's
I
gonna be
doubt
hard,
they will.
yeah.
I'm sure Colby won't let that happen.
Yeah, we'll have to pull out that old footage of John when he was a kid. Put that side by side with Colby now. I think we'd probably say that Colby, I don't know, probably, but debatable. Is Colby the better bowler at his age than his father was?
I bowled with John when he was Colby's age, and the moment that John made the jump from youth to adult, he was instantly 140 plus, maybe 145.
Interesting.
So, but Colby's not out of high school yet. He made the jump early from youth to adult. He may be a couple years ahead of John's pace, I think.
All right, let's turn our attention to another John Blaze. He's getting ready to come up on lane 2. Trying to rebound from that difficult double fill. Right back in the pocket. Leave himself a 2-pinner in the corner.
Yeah, that was jammed right in there, crushed, and you can't expect them all to go, but that was certainly one that you could see being a strike on any other frame.
And he covers. Let's take another look at his first ball here.
You can really see when John's delivering the ball, the position of his head and his eyes and his arm are on this straight line. It's Peter Pierce-esque.
John, we should mention, hails from Massachusetts. He is a candlepin bowler by trade originally, but he is certainly familiar to a lot of us in the duckpin game. You can kind of see that candlepin influence in his delivery here. He kind of lays the ball down. We know the candlepinners don't loft the ball out as much. So he definitely lays the ball down right at the line, but still gets a lot of power on his pitch.
Brian, you'll probably have a clearer memory of this, but I know John's at least one time won a tournament, a Connecticut State tournament in this house. Does he have 2?
Well, he did win the doubles,
Event.
one year with Kyle Shaw. That was a pretty formidable team. I know that last year at the Eastern Classic, John finished 5th. He shot 923 in his first set, came back with an 854 for 1769. So kind of right on track with what he did last year, right? Just looking to improve on that second block of 6. John's right up there again, so we'll turn our attention again to lane 1. Filling a spare. Through the middle.
Through the middle for 6. John, earlier when we were speaking, was telling me how he was not disappointed at all when he went through the middle yesterday. He was just so pleased with being on the headpin consistently that he knew this was what he would see every now and then. I think his attitude about that's going to change a little bit with the frames winding down and his time running out to put some scores together here. But on the headpin is indeed where he needs to be, and he's going to have to settle for 8 on this box.
Yeah, he's put himself in even with a double, a little bit of a difficult position here. 83 through 6.
Well,
So
double would get him right back to 150 pace, assuming that he filled it well.
Right,
But he needs one. Yeah, it's either that or 3 marks in a row with really good fills. So he's
and we're talking that, strikes in general have been a little bit harder to come by.
right.
Doubles and triples have been fairly scarce in comparisons to years past, we think. So 2 doubles in one game would certainly be, I think, a lot to ask. Let's flip back over to Leo Montero. Again, he's not on camera just yet. His group's a little behind the pace. He's at 104 through 9, so he also is falling off the pace that he needs to set to stay up near the top of the leaderboard.
Leo's day yesterday was almost the perfect metaphor is the roller coaster ride. He started off in the, I believe, 179. There it is, yep. Said he carried a lot of strikes in the first game and then just really had a hard time putting anything together for games 2 through 5, and then again caught strikes and strung them together in game 6. Was hoping for a steadier day today, and I think he's still struggling to put it together. I know the game 8, which was game 2 of this block, opened up with a triple, so it seems to be feast or famine on strikes for Leo. A lot of time left, and Leo, by the way, is somebody who's contended for this title at least once in the past. There was a shootout on a Sunday against Will Rigney several years back that was really exciting to watch, them going ball for ball. I'm not quite counting Leo out yet, but he has definitely got an uphill climb to continue the metaphor on that roller coaster ride to have a chance at getting to 1807.
Certainly.
Quick shout out on lane 1. We're watching Rick Gano. He's the 2003 Eastern champ, bowling with John Blaze. He may be the last B bowler to win the Eastern, right? I believe
that's true. John Blaze now up on lane 2. Puts it right in there.
And that is the ball he was talking about wanting to throw, is the crossover with the backup right into that 1-2 pocket. Got to take advantage of these spare opportunities, everyone, from here on out.
This is the pin that he missed in the first frame, the 6.
Gets it this time.
And I could see a little bit of emphasis in the very bottom of that delivery to push it right at the pin. That was nice execution.
Yeah, he had pushed his second ball left in the first frame shooting that single, so definitely in his mind made the adjustment, made sure to maybe get that ball out and come through it, and converted.
Take another look at his first ball here. Again, look at this power.
It's almost an inside-out backswing for him, too. He's really high backswing, and his arm is inside his hand. His hand is outside, and then he just cranks through with the backup spin.
I think he even torques a little bit of his body, creates a little bit of velocity with that, too. He creates the momentum in his approach and in his body really well and translates it into power and force in the ball.
Kind of like the Pedro Martinez, where slight of frame, but could still throw it 100 miles an hour, close to it.
Yeah.
So.
A little bit of a lull in the action here. This is a smaller shift of bowlers. So
Bottom right of the screen there, that's Bobby Dunnock. Bobby's a past winner, and I think to this day the holder of the record for the youngest person to win the Eastern Classic.
He was 17, I believe, when he won. In 1972. Doesn't have his age in here, but he shot 1809.
He was age 20.
He was age 20.
He's not the youngest. You were right with the age 17. Fred Babe Dugas won the Eastern in 1932 at age 17.
Forgot about Babe.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yeah, Jim. Out of all 90 years here, right? You've been here for the 90
Most
years.
of them. Most of them. I was born in 72 when Bob Dunnock won. Excuse me. So I do remember that one.
So again, John Blaze's group is moving pretty quickly. Once Rick Gano finishes up here, John will be up on the left on lane 1. You see that Leo Montero there drop down to 10th place after his 9th game, 113. So he's down to 143.3 average.
A little wave there from Rick. Waving to all his fans.
So Leo's going to need over 500 his last 3 here to catch up. John on lane 1.
Wow.
Gets it to go.
Not going to have to shoot that 6-pin this time. Got the messenger to take care of it.
Big spot to throw a strike, especially when you know in the back of your mind, I need 150s, 160s all the way out or more. Strikes certainly help take the pressure off and put another one behind it. Bumps up your score very quickly.
Yeah, he's recovered well from that fill on the double. That can be a very deflating moment, especially, you know, this is something I think we talk about every year, but on 1 and 2, there's always a little bit of extra emphasis to try and score there. And, you know, if you lose a little bit of momentum, it can be very deflating. But he's recovered well.
Yeah, he's been all over the head pin since going off the side on the double. He dropped 8 and made it, ripped the middle, dropped 9 and made it, and a strike.
You know, guys, so one thing that we were talking about in our past couple episodes, as we were getting closer and closer to the end of the 12 games, was the pressure.
Absolutely.
Right? Bowlers get a little tight, they get a little nervous, they start doing things or not doing things that they were doing earlier, and that impacts their game. Last year, John Blaze, through 11 games, had 1652. Right, so you think needs around 150 to get into the 1800 range, 150 or more, and that'll put you in near the top 3. Finished his Eastern with a 117.
So you know that's in the back of his mind, and it's a matter of what he does with that.
Yeah, that's true. And
Whether it's weighing on him or it's going to motivate him.
Yeah, I can't quite recall how that game went. I'm sure he remembers it pretty clearly, but you know, we're watching game 11 right now. He had a 180 on that game last year, and you know, he's doing really well. He may log a high score and then be faced with a similar situation to last year.
But now he has that experience of going through that situation, so hopefully he can build off of that, learn from it, and be able to perform under the spotlight, so to speak.
Yeah, it's very true, and every single ball sort of feels different.
It's magnified.
Yeah. And this one right here almost counts more, right? Because he's on a strike. If he can catch a double here and put up a bigger score, that takes pressure off. Maybe he's a little more relaxed going into the last 2 games. Misses left.
I think what happens in that situation is you say you throw the double or you cover a single, you get to take a deep breath, and oxygen helps, and oxygen works against, and he does a great job covering the 136 there. Nice deep sigh of relief there, and gives you a little more confidence and keeps you looser for the next frame.
Let's see if we can catch a mistake here on his first ball. Maybe he just slid a little left, just half an inch left. So everything else to me looks pretty good.
Yeah, just missed a spot, I guess.
And then for the spare, take another look at full speed. I'm not sure he was expecting to convert that spare, the way he reacted when he turned around.
Yeah, maybe a little heavy on that head pin, and this house is kind of notorious for being a little finicky with the way you hit, the way you shoot those 3-pinners. To the point where I don't think you actually expect to convert it if you're on the outside of it. You are probably thinking that you're going to get 2 instead of the 3.
But here John Blaze is right now, 133 through 9 on a spare. So he's in pretty good shape. Pretty good shape. You know.
Yeah, he'll wrap this up. We'll know exactly what he needs on that last game to catch the mark that Chris Kruger has put up there.
Well, he's still got 2 games left here, Eric.
Okay.
So
pardon me.
still keep you apprised here of Leo Montero's score. We're going to be updating it on the scoreboard in just a moment. He started his 10th game with a 9. So again, his group well behind the pace that John Blaze's group is setting here. John's only in a group of 3. Leo is in a group of 4. So pace probably benefits John, right? He likes to get up there and bowl. He's up here finishing his game in the 10th. Let's see what he can do. Right in that pocket. Leaves the 10.
That's a nice 9, Phil.
So that puts him at 142 in the 9th. In the 150s, possibly 160s if he converts here. And he does.
He's looking pretty comfortable to me right now, Brian.
Yeah, confidence builder too. 10th frame, we talked about how things are magnified in certain situations. 10th frame, when you have a good game going, you don't want to leave any pins behind, and he converted easily.
Oh, what a way to finish. What a way to finish.
High fives himself to celebrate. Passes out a couple more to the bowlers in the back there. That's a really great finish for John.
162 for John Blaze.
So that's 161, 162. If he goes 63 and 64, I think he's going to be happy with what he gets.
So that brings him to 1491. Easy math there. 149.1 average through 10 games. 300 puts him at 1791.
Going to need a little more than that. We need
So 320.
Yep.
Put him at 1811.
Just talked to John as he walked by our booth here, and he knows what's going on. He says, I think I'm just 8 pins behind the pace after that game. So
Oh, quicker math than us, right?
he knows exactly what he needs. Some people don't like to know what they need. John is not that man.
Well, we could debate whether he needs to know or should know, but he knows.
He knows.
He knows.
And he wants to know, which I think
Yeah.
is a good sign.
Yeah. Let's take another look at his last frame here. His first ball. I think it's interesting that on his slide, he does not have a solid base
Brian,
on his left foot.
I was just thinking the same thing, and yet it's a very consistent, and I don't mean just inside the broadcast, the few minutes that we've been watching him here. He's very consistent with his landing. His weight, his center of gravity is actually a little bit back. There's a little less weight than I think most bowlers tend to carry on their left leg and their knee as they're sliding. But he's extremely consistent and still lands and stands up very squarely after he's done. So there's a little bit of momentum carrying him forward as he's swinging. But look at him, solid as a rock there. I mean, it doesn't affect him one bit. It looks like he's doing everything right. There's a lot of ways to get this game done, to do it well. And John's showing us one way.
You can look any way you want all the way through the approach. As long as you're solid at the line coming through, delivering the ball, that's all that matters. Doesn't
Yep.
matter how you get there. As long as you can do it consistently. So Leo's struggling again. He started with 2 opens in his 10th game.
So John Blaze, 598 for his first 4 games in this block. 2 games to go. 598, you want to be at least 600. That's the 150 pace. So he does have a little work to do. He ended his block yesterday with 161 and 136. 161 equaled his highest of the day, and 136 equaled his lowest of the day. So kind of a mixed bag for them to finish yesterday.
They had a pair of 161 and 136s, games 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6. his score seems to be sort of clustering around those two numbers. I would say. I see, he's got 161, 162 this game. A couple of 140s in there, but 130, 160 are the most frequent numbers you see in through his first 10.
I wonder why they're waiting here. They finished on 1 and 2. They're going to be moving over to 3 and 4. Looks like 3 and 4 is available, but they have not yet started bowling. Their 11th game. I don't know if they're waiting for a ball to come back, but a little bit of a delay. Hopefully that doesn't affect John in any way.
See him there checking out his scorecard in the
Right.
bottom left.
Definitely want to make sure that's accurate. Putting in all the hard work and then have a math error affect your performance, affect your final placement. So we just repositioning that camera over to 3 and 4 so we can get a better view. The view you're watching right now is of 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we're trying to get a little more close-up, intimate view of just 3 and 4 for John Blay's 11th game. And it looks like that whatever delay there was on 1 and 2, looks like they might have been waiting for balls to come back. They're now making the switch over.
Unplug and plug in the cord.
And 2 games to go. It's Phil Clough that you just saw finishing up on lane 6, another candlepin bowler.
Just play with the HDMI.
This is Dave Dupuy on lane 5, yet another candlepin / duckpin bowler. We've had a number of candlepin bowlers make the crossover where they're still bowling candlepin, but now they're also bowling duckpin.
Good.
So there's at least 3 on this shift. And there were others first weekend as well. What's nice about this tournament is you do get a lot of variety in the types of bowlers you have. Your
From all
base
over the
of
country.
your northern bowlers, you have your bowlers coming up from Maryland and Virginia, North Carolina. Then you get the Quebecers, the rubber duck bowlers. You get 5-pin bowlers sometimes, although I don't think we had any this year, and the candlepinners.
There he is, John Blaze, taking his warm-up slides on lane 3. This is the bowler at the moment. Right? He's the bowler on the lanes with the shot, so our attention is going to be focused pretty squarely on him. We are keeping track of Leo Montero, 26 through 3 in his 10th game. John Blaze already completed his 10th game. Just waiting for them to get started on their 11th game. Just building the suspense for us here, I think, guys.
Yeah, he's playing with us. Trying to get all of his 15 minutes, maybe 20 of his 15 minutes of fame. But he's going to have more than that. Anyways, we were going to follow him for these last 2 games, so he's going to get a few lifetimes worth of his 15 minutes coming up here.
There he is, beginning. Missed left, but guess what? They all went down.
Yeah, a little light in the 1-2, but that weight did not affect him in any way.
Take another look.
When you're throwing the ball well, the pins just tend to fall a little better for you, too. There's a good example of that.
Yeah. You're throwing a good ball when you miss light. You still get the mix. I know here at Lucky Strike sometimes you miss light, and if maybe your ball is spinning away from the pocket or just too much side spin, not enough drive, you can leave a lot of messy leaves, which that obviously was not.
So John is now on the lower end of the house. I would think that the majority of the games that John has bowled in this alley have been down there. I've personally been around for a couple of tournaments and seen him bowl a couple of games. I mean, he's thrown some tremendous games down on these pairs. Lots of opportunity for scoring for him over here.
It looks like he started his first block on lanes 5 and 6. So I don't know if you want to take a look and see what his scores were from his first block. See if that theory holds true. I'm assuming he had a good game because he's averaging 149. Can't have too many bad games.
Yeah, his high game right now is 162 that
Wow.
we just saw, right? He's got 3 161s.
And a 162.
Yeah,
Yeah. What was his first game in his first block?
155.
All right. So there's no, worrying about, well, I didn't score on this end of the house, or I better score. This is the low end. I better score better. He scored all over the house. He scored on just about every pair.
It's true, yeah.
What's his low game?
127. It's game 8 today, but 136 otherwise.
No more room for those. Hopefully those are out of his system.
Yeah, if he just sticks with his 161s.
I'm sure he'd take that. That would give him 320, and he'd leapfrog over Chris Kruger by a few pins. So that's what he needs.
Yeah, and you got to think there's nobody coming in our next episode above 875, or sorry, above 890. So there he is on a strike. Almost gets it to carry.
Similar ball there on the other side of the pocket. And that's the thing about having all this revolution and spin. He's got the ball spinning left to right, and that spin transfers itself into pins. Keeps pins on the lane, keeps them moving. So he's just as dangerous in the light side of the pocket as he is in the heavy pocket.
He is all over it.
And really dangerous on those singles. And ask that pin that he broke earlier today about the danger.
I saw you go chase that, Eric. Did you keep it? What'd you do with it?
He actually requested, the souvenir if they let him. I think, I handed it into the desk, and I think Richie Dunnick was kind enough to bring it right back to him.
Nice. That'd be a nice memento if he ends up winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we saw in the replay there. That was nearly a double. Very, very nearly a double.
A lot of deadwood flying over there. Just couldn't take out the 4.
And I think, watching him react to that, obviously you would love to get a double and an opportunity to, fill a second ball on that first strike. That would be great. But you see him throw the ball, get the 9, turn around, come back, and get the spare ball and focus on that. That is exactly where you need to be with 2 games to go and a shot at winning the Eastern Classic. There's no time for despair over bad luck or not getting a good break.
And we really haven't seen any of that as far as outwardly. He's keeping the same demeanor. He always has that upbeat, borderline hyper demeanor anyways. So I haven't seen any deviation from that, though, whether it's getting too excited or upset. So I think that's a good thing, a good sign to see going into these last couple games.
Oh, nice ball from Rick Gano there.
No doubter from the 2003 champ.
And they are keeping a really nice pace. I think this is exactly what John needs.
Here he is, filling a spare.
All right, and that ball's outside. Maybe a little quick, actually.
Yeah.
After saying that the pace was probably a good thing, I think he did get up there and get going a little faster than what we've seen.
Maybe the first time he missed the head pin since his double last game.
Yeah.
That's one thing about, you see some bowlers get up there and they wipe their ball off, they look at their score, they think about what they had for breakfast, they take a lot of time, and by the time they get up there, they're mentally in tangles, right?
Right, they already forgot about the first thing they were thinking of.
Yeah, so there is something to getting up there and just bowling. Grab your ball, set yourself, go.
Right.
But there is that danger, of course, of just being too quick, in too much of a rush.
Trusting yourself, you have
yes.
muscle memory. You've made that same delivery thousands and thousands of times over the years. Sometimes you overthink it. Sometimes it's better off just to let your body do what it knows it needs to do. And
I don't know that it's the same in every situation. This is
true.
This is the last couple games here. I think there's a lot of bowlers and a good case to be made that, like, all right, make sure you are taking an extra second, take the breath, and be loose as you're delivering the ball. And that might have been the example there, case in point, of just going a little too quick in your through your ritual. But
Well, let's take another look.
we have a stopwatch we can put on a couple of these.
So, I mean, he did set himself here, right?
Yep.
Pumps twice.
You can see him out there a little bit more, right? Hanging over and then crossed himself up.
Yeah,
I think what's happening there is, your center of gravity's out a little bit farther to the right than where you want it. Your body is trying to correct it, pull you back, and you're and it's just a natural recoil of the body, and
Right,
he just takes the ball with it.
So it's him stepping a little bit to the left.
Yeah,
And then
either stepping or just not kind of keeping his vertical axis, his head sort of straight up as he normally does. And both can have the same sort of result.
And the margins here are pretty small,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We're not talking about he took a foot to the left. It could be half an inch.
Half an inch, and you take a half an inch of a problem and then stretch it over 60 feet of lane, and it turns into a 6-inch to 10-inch difference in where the ball goes.
Blaze looking to recover.
And boy,
He does.
Emphatically.
error corrected. Well done, John.
Again, we'll see
You'll
something
see a
very
difference.
similar here,
You'll
but
see a difference.
just a little straighter. A little straighter.
Look at his
More
vertical
balance.
axis, a little straighter up throughout, and then, yep.
Didn't notice the last frame, but his sliding foot was pointed towards the pins, and then to avoid fouling, he angles the foot
Right.
parallel with the line. I don't know what he did that last frame, but he was dead on pointing towards his target.
Yeah, Eric was talking a little bit about that earlier, and when he throws the ball, you said, Eric, his foot is in position, he's balanced, but he's got all that momentum that gives him so much power that turns his foot after he throws the ball.
Right. And what is really important with delivering the ball is that moment that you are releasing it and getting through the bottom of your downswing. Are your hips facing where you want them? Are your shoulders facing where you want them? Are you standing up straight? And is your timing good? And that was textbook, that last one. And then, like Jim said, you do see him turn. You do see him turn afterwards. But
As long as that happens afterwards.
And as long as you stay behind the line.
If he starts to slide diagonally, that's where the problems can arise.
right.
Well, we've got a moment here. We'll update you on Leo Montero. He's got 79 through 7. He's got back-to-back 9 drops, spares to cover. So he's kind of turned things in the right direction, but he only had 50 through 5. So he's got plenty of work to do to keep his name on the leaderboard.
Well, we've got a break on John here. There's Rick, as we've mentioned a couple of times. It's a good moment to give a shout out to his son Matthew, who's a B division bowler. Had I believe something in the 840s yesterday.
847.
847. He shot really well and was hoping to do follow that up with a good block today. He told me before he started that he was looking to, our broadcast was going to start, or rather a recording, an eventual broadcast was going to start Game 3, which we did it on schedule. Well done, guys. And Game 4, rather. I'm getting corrected by Brian in the background here. Game 4. And he predicted that he was going to bowl really well the first 3 and then bowl terrible when we might have a camera pointed at him. And then I checked in with him in Game 3. He said, all right, now I'm hoping for the opposite because his first 3 games weren't that good. He's fallen off the B Division leaderboard and is trying to salvage his 12-game set.
Attention back to John Blaze, filling a strike.
Oh, my goodness.
9 in the pit, basically.
Robbed of a double. I'm really happy to see him not really reacting to that. But, man, that's one he definitely deserved. Oh, I saw a little cutoff at the top of his backswing. Little hitch in the timing. I'm not sure if he felt like he was walking faster and trying to adjust to it mid-swing, but there it is. He got that one all the way up. And that one might have been a little bit late, actually, in his delivery. But, Brian, if we could get a replay on that second one.
Yeah, we've got the time, so let's go back and let's check out his first ball.
See a real subtle difference and something that's common for all of us, shooting a single. And this looks perfect. Look at him.
Just didn't get quite as much mix, it
Yeah.
seems, on that one.
He
A little.
just drove them all into the
Yeah.
pit, and everything went around the 4-pin.
All right, so we'll watch his second ball here. He misses this a little left.
There's a little mistake in here, and I think you can see it right about here. We sort of stop and start that downswing, initiate it a little bit more forceful than just kind of letting it swing.
And he didn't miss by much.
No, small hitch.
Thought I heard him say something, though, after he delivered the balls, like, oh, or something. Someone, I don't know if that was someone else, but I think he knew. Well, he obviously knew
Yeah.
based on his body language, but
It's a small correction. I'll be honest about my own game. I miss that pin pretty often when you take nine pins off the deck and leave it there. You try not to overreact to it, but sometimes it hurts.
I think also when bowlers like John are bowling really well, he expects to make that single really square, go through the center of the pin, right? And if he's off a little bit, he's going to be a little upset. He might make that noise. Probably 8 times out of 10, he's still going to make it because the degree of error wasn't enough to result in a miss. But that time it was just enough to bring that ball wide.
Yeah, well, you can see. The fact that he barely missed that is a testament to how zoned in he is. A little miss on the timing and stuff like that is still possible, no matter how good you feel and how good you're bowling. But when you're missing by such a small amount, I think it's not something to get too disappointed about. It's still a good sign for him.
Right. And if he's going to shoot 20 or 30 single pins today, right, you can't expect him to make every single one. But if he's making 90%, then I don't know if you guys would agree, but he's probably in pretty good shape.
9 out of 10 is a great rate to be making singles at. I think back to the other, the first single he shot in this game. I think it was the 6-pin on the other side. And it was the story you were talking about, Brian, where it's like, bam, right in the middle, emphatic. Maybe it was the 4-pin. I can't remember, but try to make up for it here and pay the price.
Oh, it's rare. We haven't seen him chop in a while.
All right, guys. Are we gonna be honest with one another here? This is a moment that I think you just turn into. Well, I missed that single, but it would have been worth 2 pins. So let me turn that negative into a positive and just say these happen every now and then.
But
it wasn't that painful.
But let me be that other little voice on John's other shoulder here. You just missed a single pin twice, and you just missed your object pin twice. Out of your past 5 balls, you've hit your object pin once.
Right.
Yeah.
So do those
Trend.
thoughts start creeping into your mind that I'm losing it, I need to do something different, what's going wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, and also, by the way, I've got 80 through 6 frames.
Right. I'm behind pace.
After being really solid on the first 5, right? Or first 4 rather.
But
Brian, I think that's a really good way to describe this is that like when the pressure is on and you know that there's a lot on the line, you do have these dueling forces, the voice over your right shoulder, the voice over your left shoulder. You're trying not to psych yourself out of it, right?
That's, in my opinion, 80% of this game. When you get to the top level,
Yeah.
right? 80% of the game is mental, keeping yourself focused on what you need to do, keeping yourself and your emotions level. That's most of the game, right? We see bowlers all the time, really, really, really good professional bowlers, overcome with emotion, usually anger at how they're bowling, but we see it all the time. We see it all the time.
Yep.
One thing I'm trying to work on for myself with mixed success is when things aren't going right, or even when things are, to try and think about the things that I need to do right, not the things that I need to avoid. Like, don't go off the side for 2 on the spare, or
Yeah, it's
don't
a
overthrow the ball.
healthy
right.
way of thinking about
Think
things.
about, okay, I just need to make sure that I point my toe, that I follow through. The
Right.
thing, think
And-
about
and not thinking about outcomes, thinking more in terms of
the
mechanics.
process,
like what-
right.
yeah.
try and keep it as simple as possible, break it down to the lowest common denominator and say, okay, just make sure I do this.
Yeah, I think what I tell myself a lot is what makes this ball I'm throwing different from any other ball.
Right.
Right.
I've done this thousands of times.
Even if it's the 10th frame and I need a double, I'm not going to throw the ball. I'm not going to do anything different.
Right.
Right. I'm looking to do the same exact thing I look to do every single
Right.
first ball I throw. So, but
Yeah,
that's the battle.
And sometimes,
that's the battle.
sometimes you rip the head pin 5 times in a row and have to tell that to yourself. But
Well, even then, I think you can make some slight adjustments, right? Maybe watching a different spot. But, yeah, then you start thinking about doing something different as opposed to trying to do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. And John is definitely in the midst of this battle right now. Little light. We saw him get some favorable breaks with a light hit or 2 earlier. This one is not favorable.
Yeah,
Let's
those
see
are-
if he tries to make it.
those won't be there the whole time. He throws the same ball. He gets it. Wow.
Oh,
That would have been an unusual way to convert that had it gone, but it was really close. That 5-pin punched it right through, got it off the back with all that power he has, and it just kind of went through the 9-10 instead of knocking 1 or 2 of them over.
yep. And if I'm that little devil on his shoulder again. That's 6 balls out of the last 9 that I didn't really throw the way I wanted to. I didn't hit what I wanted to, and the outcome was not what I wanted. Let's take a look at that second ball again. Different angle.
And he threw that ball hard, too. Obviously, he kicked it out of the pit, but it made like a popping noise when you hit it. You could hear it all the way from here in the booth. I don't know if it made its way onto the broadcast, but he got all of
Watch
that
out.
5-pin.
Hide behind one of these monitors.
And despite Leo, his second half of this game, 4 spares in a row, just left the 5, 7, 10 in the 10th. So
Yeah, but he'll be moving into our camera angle after he finishes this game, so we'll get to see his last 2 games. But again,
he'll be in the 120s this game.
not on pace to stay on the leaderboard even. All right, so let's do a quick recap here. If you weren't with us at the beginning of today's broadcast, you missed our storylines going into episodes 3 and 4. We've got Chris Kruger in the lead in the clubhouse. He had 1807 for his 12 games, 150.6 average. In years past, the winning average has been 155.67 or 154. The past 2 winning scores have been 1868 and 1859. But with that said, there were no 900s on Shift 5. We'll be bringing you Shift 5 in Episode 4 of our coverage of the Eastern Classic. No 900s. That's usually the shift, and you'll see it when that episode comes out. Big bowlers. Lots of them on that shift. No 900s. But here's our guy in contention, John Blaze, looking to rebound. And that was a good first ball. Should take a lot of pride in that he just kind of turned things around after 3 poor frames.
This is a good pin to leave. Feeling pretty good about getting the ball down the center of the lane in general over the course of the weekend.
Converts right through the middle.
Could be that confidence builder there. Getting back on track.
maybe even better than throwing a strike, right? Breaking 9 and having to get up there and hit it, and then hitting it square in the middle.
And like you said, the fact that it was the 5-pin, he had to throw the same ball twice.
Yeah.
So really working on that first ball delivery, and straight A's for that frame.
It's a pocket hit that's probably going to get you, leave something like this often. It's flush in the 1-2 pocket, clears pins. A lot of times you see things coming off the wall, and once in a while the 5-pin gets kicked. Other times you see the 5 in a partner, either the 8 or the 9-pin, but I think most of us don't mind this type of a frame at all. Very comfortable trying to put the ball down the middle of the lane 2 times. Of course, it's a double-edged sword, right? You feel confident shooting the 5-pin. When you miss, it hurts a little bit more.
Right. Nobody misses the 5-pin, right?
Right.
Checking on one of our camera angles here. And now you will see Leo Montero in the left corner of your screen. He's made the walk from 19 and 20 down to 1 and 2 for his last 2 games. And with the Eastern, you always bowl the last 2 frames of your block on the same pair. So John Blaze will be on his pair for the rest of this game and next game, and as will Leo Montero. So John, 2 frames to go here. He's only 18 up on his box. He's got a spare working in the 8th, so really up against it here. If he marks out, that's going to put him in the 140s, depending on how his fills are. We mentioned earlier he needs to average in the 160s his last 2 games to bypass Chris Kruger's score. So this, if he wants to get back onto that pace, he must mark these last 2 frames. Maybe even string some strikes together. But this may be the point where he starts to feel it even a little bit more. As we talked about before, he knows exactly what he needs. He knew he was exactly 8 pins off of the pace. So I'm sure all of that is going through his mind right now. With just 12 frames to go in his tournament, needs to make the absolute most of it for those 12 frames. Rick Cano with the exotic spare conversion. Looks like the 146.
John Blaze now getting up to complete his foundation frame.
Working on that spare. Worked out the kinks last frame from the 3 frames before where he had struggled. He missed a single and off the head pin and left a split. Back on the head pin a little light. Had the 7-10 for a second, but Wood takes out the 10. Very fortunate to have just the 7 pin here. He walks away smiling. And I would have to assume the way that since he has backup spin, this is probably the more difficult of the 2 corners. I'm assuming the left side of the frame is probably tougher for him to shoot than the right.
Oh, just hung on.
Went down to 1 knee watching that second ball. But he clips it. Big spare in the 9th for John Blaze.
Take another look at his first ball here.
Yeah, it just clips the head pin there, more the 2 than the 1, and gets the 10 pin to fall. That might be a ball to look back on depending on how things play out for John the rest of this tournament. And now we see Leo Montero over on 1 and 2. It's going to take a little bit of work to keep up on his score. I believe he's just starting his 11th game. But Leo did drop off the leaderboard after that last 120-plus game. But he starts this 11th game. Looks like the 9-10. Can't quite see. He did have 2-pinner, but covers it up for 10. So all focus will be on John Blaze the rest of this broadcast. He's the only bowler. This is shift 3, although that's a nice bomb from Rick Gano. John Blaze is the only bowler on this shift in contention. As we'd mentioned before, Matthew Gano was in contention for the B division. He's fallen off the pace today. But right now it's all about John Blaze. 117 in the 9th, working on a spare. Light again, able to get the mix. Now he has the 10-pin. So now he's going from shooting the left corner to the right corner. He's had the 5-pin, the 7-pin, and now the 10-pin to shoot at these last 3 frames. So he's getting to work his way all around the lane. Again, a very big spot for John. Nails it. So he presented 3 singles. These last 3 frames, goes 3 for 3, bounces back from that rough stretch in the middle of the game. And now he's just a fill away from a 140 game. But then that'll mean he'll need somewhere closer to 180. All right, yep. Happy with himself with that 9 fill. 145 for John Blaze. The squirrel, as they like to call him. You might get a feel as to why, just watching his demeanor and delivery. So that puts him at 1636. So 172 pins away from catching or bypassing Chris Kruger for the lead. He knows, and I'm sure he knows exactly what he needs.
He's a little off the pace that he had set yesterday. First 5, 757. First 5 today, 743. He did finish with a 136 yesterday, but like we were talking about last year in his Eastern Classic, finished with 117 his 12th game when the pressure was on a little bit to get him into a top 3 position. He did finish 5th with 1769. He's certainly going to beat that, potentially.
Well, if we think about it, so last year in his last game, he had 117. The last game of his first shift this year, he was in the 130s, which I'm sure he's trying to put up as big a score as possible to try and get close to or over 900 for his first block. So maybe he's building off of that, getting more experience in that pressure-packed situation.
Well, we'll certainly find out in the next 10 frames. That's what makes this tournament so exciting.
Rick Gano after that bomb last frame, 7-10. One of many Ganos to have bowled the Eastern. His son Matthew also on this shift. His brother and 2 other sons also are bowlers. Chris Gano, one of his sons, is our statistician today, helping us keep track of everyone's scores for the leaderboard.
And there's our first look at Leo Montero today. Leaves 9 on his first ball. He'll bowl his next 2 games here on lanes 1 and 2. Again, off the pace a little bit. He fell off our leaderboard here after 10 games.
Sure, looking to get back on, trying to get on to not only our leaderboard, but also the main prize list for the tournament.
And not that he's bowling poorly. He's still averaging 141.7, which is a darn good score for duckpin bowling.
Very respectable, especially if it seems like, I had thought last weekend that I was expecting higher scores, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It's falling a little bit tougher than normal here. So to be averaging over 140 is nothing to sneeze at for sure.
And I mean, I think you would say he's struggling. So struggling
Absolutely.
and averaging 141 is, still pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be the first one to tell you that.
Guys, I was down there adjusting some cameras and overheard John while he was closing out that game. I think in the 9th frame he said, I dropped it in the right spot. He was shooting a single. But then you could tell he got a little bit of confidence of closing out that game the way he did. Much needed 20 or so on the end, maybe 40 on the last 2 frames.
Yep.
About
38.
38, yeah. And there's a little bit of a crowd behind. John's a well-liked guy. He's not a duckpin bowler. It's not where he started, right? But he's got a good group of friends down here, and people are starting to file in for shift 5 and know that he's the guy we're watching, not just the cameras, but other people here as well, and they're giving him their support.
Ouch
See,
for Leo.
Leaving the 7-8 there. And again, we're just waiting for John Blaze's group to begin their next game. It seems like they've been taking a good 5-minute or more break between games.
Yeah, I'm
you
not sure
wonder,
if it's purposeful or they're waiting for a ball to come back. I'm not sure, but
you wonder how that's going to impact him. And there's no real way for us to measure that. But we could speculate that for him now, he finished 9 spare, 9 spare, 9 spare, 9. It would probably be in his best interest to keep going right away. If he struggled to finish that game, maybe he does need a little breather, a little break, and that would be advantageous to him. But
well, if we compare and contrast, earlier we were doing this, we were looking at his scores from last year. His game 11 was a 180. One would think game 11 last year probably went pretty smoothly for him. I don't know if he was carrying strikes or just hitting, getting all of his marks. This game 11 was a hard fought for 145 with an up and a down, or maybe up down up. He earned it. I think he's not just on easy street that maybe he felt like he was on game 11 last year. He's fighting and staying sharp.
Well, here he is. It's the moment of truth. Game 12 for John Blaze. He's in second place on the average list right now, looking to finish game 12 and go to the top. That's a good way to start.
Goodness. First time you see a little excitement out of him. That is a great way to start what is sure to be a challenging game. One of the more challenging games I think he's had in his duckpin career. Not unlike the one he had to bowl last year, but these games don't happen every Monday night.
right.
An opportunity to win the 90th Eastern Classic is very different than most of the games you bowl.
A little heavier in the pocket there.
It was still light though. I mean, he had
it
flashed the 5 and the 10 and the last 2 pins there. It was just
looked like one of those flush hits. I saw the 5, 7, and 10
Right.
being the last 3 pins to fall.
he just caught the pocket,
But
right? It wasn't heavy in the pocket. It wasn't a crusher, but he had just caught
but there's
enough
that-
of the head pin
Right.
to get the mix.
His ball works really well here.
And John is no stranger to bowling in front of cameras on the Candlepin side of his career. I know he's appeared on King of the Palace, which is another YouTube bowling presentation out of Massachusetts.
Yeah, shout out to those guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
I think they're up in where they film that is Leominster or Fitchburg, somewhere up that way. I have to stop in there sometime. Go up there for work every now and then. Riccano doesn't get the messenger, leaves the 10 pin. You throw some good balls on camera today. Oh, we just saw the 5-7 made off the right-hand side of the screen. That was Bob Dunnock with the conversion.
All right, and here's John Blaze grabbing his ball here.
One thing I guess I got to give a lot of credit to John for is how smoothly he transitions back and forth between these two games. He throws a candlepin ball, which is at least a quarter of an inch, maybe a little more, less in diameter, a lot lighter. It feels totally different than throwing a duckpin ball. And man, does he go back and forth with a lot of ease.
I don't know about you. I can't do it. Oh.
And
That
missed a
ball
little
off.
left.
Yep. That's okay. 7 fill and a makeable spare. A little bit tricky here to stay tight on that head pin and carry all 3 pins, but
Yeah, it's hard to rip through the head pin on purpose. It's something you want to train yourself not to do.
right. Oh, he got
Oh.
it that
That's another way to
All
make it.
right.
Yeah, you need every single break like that right now, and
Yeah.
I would definitely call that a break. Well, just like we just said, I think the strategy is to hit the head pin heavy and try and carry all 3 pins, but he had some wall action on his conversion.
Take a look at his first ball again.
Yeah. This is an important frame, I think, for John.
Yeah, just yank that one
Although-
left.
Yep. Although off the mark, and that ball probably one of the farthest off we've seen, but takes the lemons and makes lemonade on that second ball.
Let's see if we can get a replay of that. And make sure he gets back on the head pin here after missing it badly the first ball. Just clips it on the 2-pin side,
And then a busy head pin to clear out the 5 and the 8.
and the wood does the work.
This is so. It's not that often that we get a good opportunity to focus in on one bowler and talk a lot about what their mechanics and their psychology probably is. A lot of this is speculation on our part. What's going through their mind, but a lot of us have also, maybe not had a great opportunity to win the Eastern Classic, but have competed and tried to win tournaments and find ourselves in these situations every now and then. So we can speak to it from our experience. What I think I'm feeling, I'd be feeling if I were in John's situation after that frame is, okay, really, really tough first ball. I did not throw that well. I'm trying to keep it together here. I come back and the second ball isn't exactly where I want it, but I get some luck. And I keep talking about that breath that you get to take when something, either lucky or something really, really deliberate happens. Both of them give you an opportunity to say, all right, now I just got to reset myself and hit the head pin the next frame.
Yeah,
I think that was an important moment in this game. We'll see. I think he comes back and hits the head pin and gets 8, 9, or 10 on this one.
I would not bet against it. And with his misses, he hasn't been that far off, right? He hasn't been wild at all up there. It's very little fine adjustments like you've been talking about, Eric. On a spare here. Ooh.
Wowzer.
So as lucky as he was on the spare conversion, gets a little unlucky there. He was light, but
I think his ball is sort of naturally in danger of leaving him this more than it is on the other side.
Right.
His ball with the rotation going to the right, flush in the 1-2 pocket is going to. Oh wow! What a shot at that. It's going to have a little bit more of a tendency to cause the ball to just clear off to the right side of the lane and
not do as much work.
not do as much work.
Right. Yep. Does what he can do there to get 10. So 48 after 3. Good start, but again, really can't take any frames off here. Needs 172 for the lead. And I don't know if he's thinking greedily or not. I don't know what he's thinking, but are you thinking like I need even more than that? Because even though that'll 172 puts me in the lead, I know that there's a lot of great bowlers coming in the next shift that can put up big scores to go even farther past me. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's a lot of ways to think about it, right? You can say, well, I'm just going to focus on this ball, every ball, and make it my best, and not even really focus on your score. You could put that point, like you said, Jim. I don't want to get to 1807. I want to get to
1825.
1825,
Right.
and here's what I need to hit. Or you say, 1807. As long as I get there, I'm good. There's a lot of ways you can approach this, and probably for each individual, the best approach is going to be a little different. We'll try and get John in here later, and I'm sure we can kind of pick his brain to see exactly what he was thinking through this journey here.
Yeah, John lives these moments and remembers them very well. He'll probably be able to take us through ball by ball what he was thinking in some moments. Oh, no.
Oh.
Bad time for this.
Back-to-back splits.
And that was a much better ball than last
It
frame.
was, yeah.
Unlucky, very unlucky there to leave the 7-10.
You know, I guess, you know, if you're being really, really picky about this, the ball is a little heavy in that 1-2 pocket.
Right.
But, you know, a nine would have just been a better feeling moment, you know, better feeling leave on that. Such a great ball. You know, to the earlier to the conversation you guys were just having about, you know, the right frame of mind to be thinking about things. I think there's, you know, whatever you're thinking about when you just walk off the lane and you're standing back there. That's one thing. To the extent that it affects what you do when you step up on the lane, you know, you ought to be careful about that. But you know, I think the right thing to do for every bowler, universally, is to get on that lane and to be just focused on this ball that I got to throw.
Right.
You know.
Okay, you don't want to be thinking about too many things at once. Just think about what's right in front of you right now.
Yeah.
But his nickname's the Squirrel, so it could be that he's thinking about a million things at once. I don't know. We'll ask him.
Oh, whatever he does, I guess it works for him. I mean,
It's working.
especially in this house. Very consistent performer in this house.
Catch back up with Leo Montero here. Working in the 6th frame, struggling again.
Does have a spare leave here.
I think that's more or less been the story of his day here.
Right.
Had some opportunities to kind of be on the leaderboard, and hasn't necessarily taken all of them. But like we said, certainly not a bad day at the office. Still averaging in the 141 range. Just not quite enough to stay on the leaderboard.
Well, this is important for him. I mentioned before to try and stay on the main prize list. So he's only 6 above his box here with 4 frames to go. So I'm sure he'd like to finish strong for, you know, you want to finish strong anyways, but to, you know, maybe give himself to be on the prize list.
And I'll say personally, he's always somebody fun to kind of watch and call. Unconventional style bowler. Really great example of the fact that, you know, there's a lot of ways to do this game, play this game. And, you know, he's a pretty consistent performer in this house himself. I mean, today not going the way he wants it, but as we said earlier, somebody who's contended for this tournament, finished 2nd place. I believe it was 2nd place, but
Yes, in 2016, finished 2nd to Will Rigney.
yeah.
All right, back to John Blaze, up in the 5th, looking to recover from 2 open frames, and does not. Misses left again.
But something to shoot at compared to his last 2 leaves.
True. There's some front to back distance between the object pin and the rest of it. Oh, that went off. He's going to need to get 2 or 3 of these and really reset for the second half of this game. I don't know if reset is fair. I mean, this was so he's got 2 frames where he was off the head pin a bit, but those 2 splits, you know,
Really derailed him.
I think if he gets back to where he was throwing those balls, they're not splits every time, you know.
Well, here's the thing. He's got 67 through 5. If he gets 100 his last 5, that's 167. That's still not enough. So he needs
He's going to need a double.
plenty of strikes. Yeah, he needs a double and, you know, all marks the rest of the way out with at least a double and no bad fills.
and it is tough to even see what was off on that one. I guess maybe a little trail to the left in his approach, but the rest of it looked pretty good to me. That 5-pinner, a tricky thing to convert.
Just caught a strike for Leo there. And it was 0 for 2 there. Yeah, went left, head pin the first ball, right the second.
But again, the margins are so fine there. He very nearly tapped that head pin.
Yeah.
But that's a shot where you really need to hit the pocket to carry the 4 and 7.
Yeah.
So even if he had just clipped it, I don't know if that would have helped much.
Yeah, there are many ways to hit the object pin there and to not convert that.
Right.
Many ways.
Seems like deja vu, though, for John Blaze. Remember we talked last year. He had 180 in his 11th game, and then 117 to finish with 1769 and finish in 5th place.
He still has 5 frames in front of him though. And he's already
Yeah.
17 up on this box, so he's 17 above, and he was 17 above to finish last year. So
There he is. Drops 9 this time.
So it has to be perfect the rest of the way out here. Starts with the 7 pin.
Converts.
Pops that one right in the face.
And again, I have to think the left side of the frames, left side of the lane is probably a little more difficult for him with the backup spin to cover those shots on the left side. But
I wonder with him, he does kind of have this, his approach, he kind of walks a little right to left in his natural approach even on his first ball. I would think that would look less comfortable, but he's just somebody who's a little different in his style. I would wonder if he's just as comfortable on the left as he is on the right.
Well, you're a similar style where you throw that backup, right, left to right. What's easier for you, or what's more difficult for you? Which side of the?
I think it's actually changed for me over the years. I used to be much more comfortable shooting the right side of the lane. My approach does come from left to right, and just over the years, I think I've gotten a little more comfortable on the left side.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's more difficult for you on the right side? Like it's gotten tougher to shoot the pins on the right side?
I have introduced a little thing in my swing and my approach that has made it a little harder to consistently keep the ball tracking out to the right. I miss it to the left a lot, actually.
Get it out, Eric. Get it out.
Tips real time here.
All right.
This isn't a coaching session for Eric. We'll just remind you
I'll
guys
take
of that.
I'll take it if we're doing it.
Yeah, we'll pick up that conversation Monday night.
Yeah.
All right, John Blaze here on a spare. He's got 4 frames left in his Eastern Classic. This ball is certainly important, as are the rest that he'll throw today. A little light.
Okay, that works out.
Manages to drop 8.
Thank you.
Yeah, he
thank you.
literally dropped 8 because he dropped that ball on the lane. You could hear it hit a little bit harder than it normally does. It bounced even. But fortunate to leave the 6-9.
Really nicely done.
Big spot. Comes through.
2-pinners get a little extra scary in these moments because it's going to hurt a little more to pick off the front one.
More ways to miss.
Yeah.
You saw the ball hop there. Still manages to get it light into the 1-2, which is his preferred pocket. Did have the triangle there, but trips the 10-pin.
I think John
That
said it pretty accurately to me earlier. He just emphasized the head pin for his, not just for his game, but for his scoring. I'm sure anybody would agree that the head pin is so critical.
And just before this replay, we just saw Leo throw a double, just for a flash. So he's riding the ship, but
Yeah, for John, it's been 8 or 9 times on the head pin a game.
And he's back in the zone after a rough 3 frames, similar to last game where he had a rough stretch in the middle of his game. But he's recovered nicely up to this point. And now it's the waiting game for John. You know, frame to frame. What do you do to fill those moments in your head?
And every next ball is the most important ball
Right.
of the tournament.
I mean, do you try and think about nothing, or are you thinking about what you need to do, or are you thinking about your score? There's so many different ways you could go.
Maybe not even the tournament, career.
Right, it'd be nice, right? This is, a signature accomplishment to have a Eastern Classic win on your resume.
All right, so the tension building here. We've got John Blaze in his 12th game. 1636 through 11. He's got 95 in the 7th of game 12.
Phil Clough with a nice strike on lane 5. There's Rick Gano finishing out his Eastern, along with John Blaze. And actually on the left side of the screen, you see Leo working on a double on lane 2. All right. Leaves just the 5. Oh, big conversion for Leo to keep him in the mix for the main prize list. So many different ways to win a prize in this tournament. And Leo covers. So Leo with 125 plus in the 9th. Good rebound after his last rough couple games, but all eyes on John now.
Yeah. On a spare. Puts it in there and leaves 2.
So not getting the strikes that he would like, but spare leaves.
And it's not just the strikes that he would like at this point, it's the strikes that he needs.
Right.
Right. 171 is his magic number to catch and tie Chris Kruger.
Which means he needs to cover this.
Oh, my.
Oh.
Well, actually, he doesn't. He's going to need to strike out. He's still not out, but it's
Well, that
strikeout time.
That miss just put
Yep.
a lot more pressure
Needs
on his first ball.
Five
Couple of frames.
5 strikes and then an 8 to tie Chris Kruger. So
Yep.
it's
Strike or die.
but hey, throw the first one like we keep saying. Right, just got to throw the first ball, just like you do every other ball. It's really no different. You're not trying to do anything out of the ordinary. Your aim every single time you get up is to throw a strike. So
In those last 2 frames, not dead in the pocket, blowing pins up, but on the head pin. Don't forget that. You're throwing the ball well. Your only job is to hit the head pin on the next ball, the next ball after that, and the next ball after that. It is not necessarily to get strikes. The strikes you're not in control of.
Just throw a good ball.
if only it were that easy,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
easier said than done.
Right. That's all I have to do. I just have to throw 5 good balls in a row. 4 good balls in a row.
But I mean, this is part of the story of the tournament is who was able to string a couple of strikes together here and there,
Right.
and take advantage of them in the context of a really good game. John, in his tournament, his high game is only 161.
62.
162, I'm sorry.
Right.
But he's hit that a couple of times.
Right. But 161, 162, really not much of a difference. He's got 4 games, right, in that 2-pin range, right?
So he hasn't been able to crack that yet.
Right.
All right, and he's going to have to if he wants to catch up to Chris Kruger here. Very, very important ball for John Blaze. His tournament is riding on this ball here. Oh,
Great ball. Anybody notice a ball change there? I think, I don't know whether he's got a little more weight or a different feel to that thing, but obviously knew he needed some strikes. And the orange ball was not carrying it. So he made an attempt and threw a great ball, and he's got the 5-pin. And Chris Kruger's score is going to be out of reach, but, fighting for second place in the clubhouse, second place maybe for the tournament. Who knows what's going to happen with Shift 5. Still a lot to bowl for here.
Yep.
Look at him trying to will those pins over.
yeah. Just goes to show you how difficult it is to get a strike in duck pin bowling.
Well, what's the name of this center?
Yeah.
Lucky Strike Lanes. It's like you said, it's hard enough in duck pins, and then you come into Lucky Strike, kind of a foreboding name on the door. And they have been tough to come by this year.
Brian, you actually put your 12 games in here. Anything from your experience you'd share? I mean, you echoed this thing about strikes being difficult to string together. You had a really good second block.
Yeah, I mean, we won't talk about my first block of 6 games at all. But the second block, I had 898, and I had 5 strikes. That was it.
Wow.
No doubles, nothing. 5 strikes. Lot of 9 drops. I had 26 9 drops.
How many did you make?
I made 26.
Wow.
How do you like that?
Wow.
But even with that, Jim, I still only hit 898.
Right. I mean, you
That was
maxed out basically what you could do, and you
Yeah.
didn't get
Yeah.
that to 900.
more or less. I two-filled a couple of spares, and that hurt me a little bit, but I just could not get over that hump of 160.
Yeah.
Even I had an 8 spare game in the 160s.
It's the same speed limit that
Yeah.
John Blaze is dealing with, I
Yeah.
guess.
It's got to be pair to pair too, because we saw him throw a double earlier. We did. He's gotten a little tighter, we think. Maybe the nerves getting to him a little bit. So he's been a slightly more erratic with his first ball in this particular game. But we've seen a couple of balls this game that easily could have been strikes.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I've actually noticed this, but this would be a subtle thing to be able to pick up on. Is I think a lot of times when you're really trying to focus on your accuracy and hitting your object pin, you take a little off the very bottom of the delivery, some of the snap and the revs, so that you don't do something funky to move the ball off target a board or two. I wonder if that's affecting his ability to carry strikes. And then also, we've only seen a couple of balls that were really, the high flush pocket that you expect the 9s and 10s on. Been a little light or a little heavy. And, just he's getting spare breaks and converting them, but,
yeah, I've just noticed this. I don't know if his angle of approach has shifted slightly. If he's coming in a little straighter into that pocket. And maybe that's why he's not getting to the side to side like we saw in that one. That came with a little more angle, I think.
Strong finish to the game. Strong finish to his set there. I mean, 150 is a fantastic duck pin game, folks. Especially in a moment when you're trying to get as many as you can. Great bowling here, John Blaze. And look at this, nice way to finish a great 12-game set.
Yep. That puts him at 1786. 148.8 average through 12 games. His tournament is over. He's headed, I think, over to our booth in a
Right.
couple of minutes.
Give him a minute
We'll
or two to.
chat with him about how his day and how his tournament went overall. But Jim, he's got to be feeling pretty good right now. He didn't catch the leader, but he's sitting in second place with one shift of bowlers left to play. And like we said, that was one of the big storylines coming into these last 2 episodes here of our coverage of the Eastern Classic. No 900s on the last shift of bowlers. 40 bowlers, a lot of the top bowlers in the country, no 900s. So that
But-
means no one's averaging 150.
Right, but they still can shoot over 900, and they don't really need a big 900. You know, Dan Richmond needs 920 to take the lead. So I think the bowlers that are walking in now that are in contention are probably going to be relieved to see that there's not a bigger score than 1807 to shoot for. So, and as far as John's concerned, I'm sure it's mixed emotions. He finished with 150. He is in second right now, but there's a couple of spots I'm sure he can look back, on his double. In the 11th game, he went off the side for 5, missed a spare in the 12th game. So a couple opportunities left out there, but we'll be able to get a chance to ask him exactly how he does feel.
You got Leo Montero there. He just finished out his 11th
11th.
game with a 143. So he's still got quite a ways to go to wrap up his tournament. Good start there with a strike. Lonely group down there now. Just one group of 4 on lanes 1 and 2. Lonely group on lanes 19 and 20. And that's it. Just waiting for John Blaze to join us in the booth here before we begin to wrap things up. All right, we've got John Blaze in the booth with us, currently in second place, 1786, 148.8 average in the clubhouse now. John, congratulations on your nice bowling. It was a pleasure to watch you today.
Thank you.
How'd you feel going into today? Let's start there.
Going into today, I felt about as good as I'm going to feel because I've been hitting the head pin a lot. I fell off of it in the middle of this set, I believe, a few times. But, hit the head pin, and I had consistent scores. I never really had a low score or a high score today. So,
Yeah, we were just talking about that very kind of level. You couldn't really break through that 160 mark, and you really never went below 130 in the tournament, I think.
yeah, 127 I think was the lowest.
Yeah.
So one game.
All right.
But you had 161 3 times. You had 162. You basically had 4 games, pretty much the same. You had 2 136 games, and then you showed me your scorecard as you were walking up. 793 or 893 yesterday, 893 today. Huh? That's pretty consistent.
Yeah, even keel off, the whole tournament. I can't say that I really missed anything or missed out on maybe a double tripper. I had the double strikes falling, so it was just good, consistent bowling on the head pin and making the shots that I left.
Yeah, it showed on camera. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we're taking a look now at a kind of a montage of your bowling here. Some really, really powerful strikes you had on lanes 1 and 2. You moved over to lanes 3 and 4. Did anything change over there when you got there?
Got a little energy boost because I knew we're going to the last 2 games and staying on the same pair. Someone, I forget who it was, reminded me to slow down, though, these last 2 games because I did get real excited, and that helped me out. I think I hit the head pin 8 times the last game, which was, I was really just satisfied if I hit the head pin, honestly. So.
Yeah, I saw. A couple of moments you had to rebound back. Got a little lucky with that 158. That's always helps to get a little boost there. But if there was a frame or 2 or a couple of balls where you are off, it was not long before you corrected and got back. How do you reset yourself so quickly after 3, 4, 5 balls? Where for a lot of us, I think we're starting to wonder if we're losing it.
Yeah, I think you're referring to, like, there was a 12-box period where I missed 5 breaks. I had, I think, 4 missed singles and a missed 2-pinner. You're saying, like, how do I bounce back from that? I think it was just hit the head pin. Your ball's working most of the day. If I'm missing a couple singles, I'm leaving a lot of them. So, I mean, I'm not really worried about missing a couple singles if I'm bowling well overall.
Yeah, that's good, and a good good thing to kind of get your mind focused on is just get that first ball where it needs to be. Certainly, it looks like it worked out for you today.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think another thing in terms of the mental strength you displayed today was in your third and fourth frames of this last game. You left the 5-7, and then you left the 7-10 on some pretty decent pocket hits. What are you thinking when you get up there and in that fourth frame you leave the 7-10, 2 back-to-back splits?
Yeah, that one surprised me because I definitely drilled the pocket. It wasn't like a light hit. That was just the break it gave me. I think what kept me in control was I knew that because my ball was powerful today, it would even out. So, I mean, I guess you're right. A lot of people can focus on you got a bad break. Oh man, I'm having to pin out of so many, but you can't be disappointed hitting a head pin for a bad break because they're gonna come. Your consistency. I think a good example of that. I bowled with Kyle Shaw. He taught me duck pin bowling the last few years, and there's a model of someone that hits the head pin and averages extremely high. You can't ever lose your frustration when you're missing breaks hitting a head pin and getting bad breaks. So I know I keep coming back to that. That was my focus all tournament, just hit the head pin.
Yeah. All right, John. Well, again, it was a pleasure to watch you bowl today, and congratulations on your high score. Are you going to stick around to see if you're going to keep the 2 spot here?
Yeah, I'm going to go eat lunch, and then I'll come back.
All right. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
All right. Well, we are going to wrap things up here on Duckpin TV. We've still got a couple of groups out there finishing up their 12 games, but nobody in contention to take the lead or approach John Blaze in his 1786 score for 12 games. So we'll wrap it up here. Stay tuned to Duckpin TV. We've got episode 4 and the hopefully dramatic conclusion of the 2020 Eastern Classic coming your way later. For Chris Cano, our scorekeeper and statistician, Eric Leteska, and Jim Kaufman, I'm Brian Ewing, signing off.